What's up, everybody? You're watching the From WordPress to Statamic YouTube channel. My name is Michael. Today I want to talk about forms. Let's start with WordPress. Now, out of the box, WordPress doesn't do forms really much at all. All the APIs are there under the hood, but you have to do a lot of manual work yourself. Take this form, for example, that I created on my contact page. I've got all the HTML there for the form with a few extra things that you'll need to know in order to make this thing work with the backend of WordPress. Starting with the action attribute here, this code lets us access functions that are defined in our theme in our functions.php. Paired with that, we've got this hidden input, which takes this value of the function that I'm going to use to process the form. Now, if I go to my functions file over here, you can see that this matches the value of that input. And here, this is where I do all the manual PHP work of getting the values from the post request, sanitizing my email, doing anything else that I need to do to clean it up and validate the form before I do anything like actually send it. Now, I probably don't want to do this for all the forms I'm ever going to want to do in WordPress. It's way too much work. If you want to do something simple and customize it for your use case, maybe this is sufficient. But realistically, this is not the way to go. So what's the answer? You probably want to lean on some form plugins. If I go to the backend, to the plugin section, and I'm searching for a contact form plugin, there are lots to choose from. These are some of the most popular ones. I've used Contact Form 7 a lot. Ninja Forms. There's also Gravity Forms, which is a paid one. But these do a lot of this heavy lifting for you, and there's a lot of drag and drop sort of things in the interface that makes it super easy. But even this has a bit of a learning curve. So how you want to proceed from here is up to you. Again, if you want to go fully custom, you probably need some code like this, pair it with some JavaScript to make it all Ajax-y and stuff, but that's going to be up to you. Okay, let's go take a look at Statamic. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is just switch over my code, so I'm looking at my Statamic project, and we'll get to the code that's here in just a second, but I'm also going to change over my tab away from the WordPress to the Statamic page. And as you can see, I already have this form configured here, but it's not connected to anything. So let's go to explore the Statamic dashboard and see what's available to us. Now, if I go down to the forms here on the left side, you can see I can create a form with just the click of a button. So let's do that. I'll create this form and let's call it contact. And let's just remember that handle for later. I'm gonna click create. And if you're paying attention to the code over on the right side, you can see this contact YAML file just got created inside this form directory. But let's not worry about that just yet. Now, there are a few things we need to do in order for this to actually work for us. The first thing is to edit the blueprint. Now, the blueprint here will tell us what fields are going to be available in our form. So let's create them. Let's start with text field, and we'll call it name. And that's going to be a text input, and we'll give it a placeholder of name. Apply, and let's add another one. And it's going to be a text field again. Call it email. And this time it's going to be the email type. Email. And finally, let's use the text area. Call it message. Placeholder is message. Okay, and let's save that. And let's go back to the front end. And we can see nothing here has changed because we're not referencing this new form at all. So let's do that. And the way that we can start is just by replacing this form tag with some Statamic code. So we'll just open up our curly braces and we'll say form. And if we remember, we called it contact. That was the handle. And we'll use the closing one down here. Form contact. Now, how do we know this is working? Well, let's just have a look at what's going on the page here and see if there's anything different between this and what's in our code editor. Okay, as you can see here, the form tag is now being handled by Statamic. It's defining the post method, and it has an action attribute, which is where everything's going to post to. Plus, it's got the CSRF token, which we don't have to worry about at all. Okay, so how do we know this works? Let's test it out. We'll hit submit. Okay, page refreshed, but I didn't see any feedback here, but we'll get to that. Now, let's just go back into the forms. I'm going to click on my forms over here again. And as you can see, now I have this contact form with a submission. So let's click on there. And here is all of the things that I submitted. There's my email, there's my name, my message, and the date. And if I want to configure which things are available here, I can just hide some things if I really want. Let's hide message and maybe the email. So we can configure all the fields that we want to show just like that. Okay, now let's go back and figure out how can we get some user feedback. Well, let's check out the forms documentation here. Now, when you create a new form, there's a link to this page directly in the dashboard, so it's not hard to find. But let's click on the template and see what the example gives us. Then we can see if there's, if this was successful, we can show some text here. If there are errors, we can show what those errors actually are. And then here's the other thing that we didn't actually talk about before, which is for rendering the fields, I don't have to type out all the code for each field if I don't want to. I can have one template for everything and then just loop over the fields with the tag pair here, and it'll do that for me. For now, let's stick with what we have and take advantage of this success and error stuff. Let's start here. So if success, let's just grab this stuff. And we'll just write a custom message here. Thanks for your message. Now, if we're not in success, either we have an error or we haven't submitted anything yet. So let's just grab this errors bit. I'll paste it in there. And the errors is just going to loop over any errors that are there. And then we just need the closing if statement there. So let's just put it right down here. Okay, so let's come back to the contact form and we'll hit submit. And in this case, it was successful, even though I didn't actually put anything in there. But we haven't defined anything that's required. So let's go back to the form and edit that. So go back to over here. So let's click on the contact and we want to edit the blueprint. Okay, let's say that the email field is going to be required. So on validation, I can click here and say, yep, this is going to be required. Let's apply that and save it. Okay, let's just give it a refresh just to make sure everything's there that we want. Michael, hello. And we'll click submit. And there we go. The email field is required. Now, we also lost the data that we submitted the first time. So there's got to be a way to keep that available until we're done with the form. Now, the way we can do that is by setting default values. So for example, let's take a look at the name here. I can say, let's see, the value is equal to, and inside of our antler tags, we can say old name. And we can do the same thing for other fields. So our email, we'll give it a value here. Old email. And inside here, we can say the old message. Okay, let's give this page a refresh. Okay, so let's go with Michael and message. We'll hit submit. So as you can see, it told me that the form submission has failed, but it's also kept around the data from the previous times. Okay, I think that's enough for today's video. In upcoming ones, we'll talk about how to enhance this with JavaScript using drivers like Alpine, as well as how to send notifications once a form has been submitted. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, sign up for my email newsletter The link is in the description. Catch you next time.